Sanje Chedon Soji Chonong La Chanchu Pato Dani Japsun Dayi Jinsu Jibe Chonong Chola Penji Sanje Rupa Sanje Chedon Soji Chonong La Chanchu Pato Dani Japsun Dayi Jinsu Jibe Chonong Chola Penji Sanje Rupa Sanje Chedon Soji Chonong La Chanchu Pato Dani Japsun Dayi Jinsu Jibe Chonong Chola Penji Sanje Rupa Melami Shinobu Seni Tati Jamningje La Ani Shinobu Seni Ani Mingdabares Kazashiro Janati Tanda Jumnende Ki Sumang Lola Gyunang La Tene Tungudu Maki Shun Ani Shinobu Na Shinjini Ani Maluba Tamjegi Duanjingi Ningjires Tendregi Tsikdene Tungudu
So as we discussed yesterday, so as Dana explained yesterday, here with regard to the wish-fulfilling jewel, the wish-fulfilling jewel here refers to love and compassion. So love and compassion are here called a wish-fulfilling jewel, or we designate them, we label them as being a wish-fulfilling jewel. And so this is also explained, in the Buddha's teachings. In particular, you find this in the Tantric teachings, in the Tantric text, where it says that that these types of mind are like a wish-fulfilling jewel, which basically brings forth all that is desired, or leads to everything, accomplishes everything that is desired. So that is in the second volume of the Tantric text. It's described. This is the kind of quotation that is given in this particular volume.
The Tsigitata Gyurgomare in a Tsigiting Love Station at Tixer. Ishin Northerma Libi Tamje Dunje Ningje Nis or Tender.
So here it's what it says here in this particular Tantric text. The quote reads that compassion is that which is able to fulfill the aims of it's the wish fulfilling jewel that fulfills all the aims, that fulfills all the goals.
Tangagi Shunala any Ningji se di yang Tandagi Ningji di Maimba Shindala Kosa in the Yor in a Tandadi and a Simjan that Zewatilla Koko Edi Karasanati Ningji Shinabuna Shinre Siegi Kandila Any Ningjidan Tembati and a Simjin like Jagu Chobal Mijas. The song in Zan and a Captain Simjin Zewatel Koko.
So here in the tantric texts, the word compassion or the term compassion can have different meanings. However, here in this context, it means that it refers to love directed at sentient beings or a loving attitude directed at sentient beings. And so because it says earlier in that same text, it says that those who possess that wish-fulfilling jewel are able to support sentient beings. They provide a support for sentient beings.
Namji Mansu Tuende ki Manjaro and Tagital Manjaro and Tagital say the Gutina Sungur. Mansu Tuende ki Jamingji call Tuende 6 years, Kundu, Manjaro and Tagital Manjaro and Tagit Uma, or the Guti Tsirisha.
So usually we talk about, there's this line that is usually cited, may I be able to liberate those sentient beings who have not been liberated, provide breath to those sentient beings who don't have it, etc. So this is actually taken from this particular tantric text. So this line that is recited often is taken from this particular tantric scripture.
Antina Shinjigi Tandati Mansota Yonra Hakuegi. Pavachinesi ta cha ki di narola norbuchi tus namdeyore. Di norbutigi ene jamni janjusim chengures ta di sungur.
Also, it is explained likewise that with regard to Avalokiteshvara, in the depiction of Avalokiteshvara, he is depicted with two hands folded together in front of his chest, holding a precious jewel, and this is symbolic for love and compassion.
Chezanta Chebukabla Charundu, Sanjiki Chusukunin and Sukuche, Langikabla Charundu, and Chamiji Chanjusim, Chengores, nobody, Ishin Nobureti.
Yes. So this precious jewel that Avalokiteshvara is holding in his hands is this wish-fulfilling jewel, which from the point of view of the resultant state stands for the Rupakaya, that is the form body of a Buddha, and from the point of view of the non-resultant state, from the point of view of the state of the path, it refers to love and compassion.
Chiza Chinesi number Mamboyore, To Momonola, Chinesi, Tintengor. Netanda Chinese Cha Shibache and Jujishi Kanche, the Chana Shinobu, the Chete, the Nagishunga, Tenjoki.
So in general there are different depictions, different manifestations with regard to Avalokiteshvara. There are different names that are given to Avalokiteshvara, but here in particular with regard to 4-armed, 1,000-armed and so forth Avalokiteshvara, this here refers to, or the explanation that was just given is from the point of view of the tantric system.
Tichiduta Nagi Nimleching in the Yinsing into Zuge, Chamning the Shutya Koyaji, Nag Shumparalan Temuda.
So this indicates that those who practice Tantra, those who are Tantra practitioners, they also need to make an effort in practicing love and compassion.
Chitan Nor Sea Jabata Rimbuche, Sin Mingta Shajoki, Lamgi Namsha Shinda in the Yore. In a Marangi Tomba Nalola, and the Yishinobu Sin Mingtasha Yodi, Jamiji Jinjusim Lamato, Sid Pichichibang Thomas.
So in general, the words jewel, for instance, a jewel or something that is greatly precious. So these words are used to indicate certain phenomena, or they stand for certain phenomena, certain particular or different types of things. However, with regard to the word of a wish-fulfilling jewel, here Geshe is saying that he has never seen, or he has only seen this word used in the context of love and compassion being like a wish-fulfilling jewel.
Mashitandati ya Shijimodoji Nalola, and Tromelamdang Chungdengi Simjedilla, Chanju Simdilla, the Tromelamdang Chungdengi Simjedilla, Ishinobusin Mingdar, Ishinobusipedi.
Although in Maitreya's Abhisamaya Alankara, you find one stanza or one line where it says that bodhicitta that is conjoined with prayer, that is described as being like a wish-fulfilling jewel, or that is described as a wish-fulfilling jewel.
that the monomla, the canicuredi monomla gomara. This is in the Sunan the Tray Homera, canicuredi, monomla di Tumba, and Tumba la du Tassimji, Tumile Tende, Simji Diwali Jomde, Takanjim Yichin, the Korale Gorda.
So actually when we say bodhicitta that is conjoined with a prayer, here this prayer that is thus conjoined, we're not talking about the prayer that is recited, that is verbally recited, but rather we're talking about a mental factor, because it can only be a mental factor that is conjoined with bodhicitta. And so therefore here when we say prayer, it's a mental factor of aspiration. An aspiration that wishes for sentient beings to be free from suffering, and that wishes for to protect sentient beings from suffering, and wishes for them to be happy. So in that sense, therefore, the prayer that is conjoined here with bodhicitta refers to love and compassion.
That kasure da shena tsewa ki da gyumzen tambo di da khazan twa sa wache da gyumzen niba di ene kyo di da ne lhenji du nyeson da du me chabo da tenjo da do dewa mangbo nyong chi du nebe da la di da ka da di la sinde mi se kya ko esik me batabre.
So yesterday Geshe explained the first reason for why it is necessary to generate love for sentient beings. Now with regard to the second reason is explained in the third verse. So the third verse reads, "Together with these beings I experience the sufferings of the lower realms and all sorts of happiness of the higher realms. Since we dwelt as one, I am fond of them." So again, I'm saying that it's not necessary to really give an explanation of each of the words, since the words are rather obvious. The meaning of those is obvious.
Da kanje manju chamanta da kiwa machi na jeni higi yo inzang manju chamanta chobo mo shi kyanjang re sin ye cha ro da.
So since all of us here kind of talk about or accept past and future lives, so if we accept such past and future lives, then in that sense all of us have gone through different lives in the past, and therefore we're all friends, we're all acquaintances.
Taning manju ta chideng ki kela ina da kidu nyamnyong yis nyamnyong che bares la jora chamchan la nyamdo kibu che chamchan la nyamdo tunghe nyong chamchan la nyamdo kale kya o tinde chini kidu nyamnyong che ding ngi ti shata cha de res manju chama.
So therefore all of us have had the experience of happiness and suffering together. So there's this expression in Tibetan which basically says we had the experience conjointly, we had the experience of happiness and suffering. So we experience happiness together and we experience suffering together. So therefore it makes sense, it is appropriate for us to have love towards sentient beings.
Tene kyumze sumbadi ane kangi ngal tu lenchi member ta mane pa amta la ka mane simje tene tina kaya me tije tamji nyen du juba his ta simje kangi ngal tu ane susu ne ma nyuma tinde yo mares tie chachi ni ma imba char mangbo ta ne nyuma shata che dina shi ane ta rangi ngal du ane simje ti ane ne ma nyum se chi ki enche yo mares tie ta char mangbo che tinde inza chama nye imba ma se ta nye gi tartu pama da pu gi ro ye de ba shata cha de res dire.
So then the next verse number 4 reads, "Not just once did I reside in every womb, nor is there a single sentient being who did not reside in my womb. Therefore, we are all family." So this is indicating the third reason for why it makes sense, or for why it is necessary to generate love towards sentient beings. The reason being that all of us have not just once but many times over and over resided in other people's wombs, have been born from their wombs, have resided in their wombs. And similarly, not only have we resided in everyone's womb countless times, likewise they have resided in our womb. So they have been born from our womb in that sense. And so therefore, because of that relationship having taken, or that situation having taken place, they are like family, they're all family. And so we are all family, so family not just in the wider sense, but basically we've been each other's parents, we've been each other's children.
간다르다 심제 담제라 아니 아멘 두시에 고메 심제 담제라 부고 두시에 고메 다디 손로다.
So here, this particular verse refers to the fact that, or refers to the meditation on the notion that all sentient beings have been our mother, all sentient beings have been our children.
대대 삼로당 대외 온도 대부지 온도 대외 온도 제나 시징이 도나로라 아니 랑레 gem바도 졸라 파멘 두시 랑레 충마도 졸라 아니 부고 두시 아니 냠바도 졸라 빈자다 도베 두시 딘데 고메 손레.
So, based on this kind of attitude, it says, for instance, in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, that we should regard those people who are older to us, who are older than us, that we should regard those as being our parents. We should regard those who are smaller than us or younger than us as our children. And those who are of the same age as us, we should regard those as relatives, as brothers or siblings, as well as friends.
다 두시에 삼삼로당 바이네 timbiji다 pengre.
So when we take this notion, we kind of get used to this notion, kind of taking that as our object of meditation. That is, in certain cases, is beneficial.
말라티 재미구쇼치기 르주지 셰스.
A Chinese monk once told Gela a story.
암지 럽존 체딩이다 암지기다 럽다르와다. 어떤지 암지 뭐 보여서지라다 내가 디어레서 미데 페제 다시에 땡케르도 제 도시냐 울테네 다도체네 딘디샤사지 어디나로라 아니 데슬로 야슬레딩이기 아마지 아니 다 강해요레 심데요레 룽차부제 아니 암지레나 암지레 데스메 시시 땅까지 도체네 암지 퀘살을 트레라 강해체요다 암지도서.
Merci. So at some point there was a medical institution, in a sense. There was like a place where terminally ill people spent their last days before passing away. So in this particular hospice, in this particular kind of place, there was an elderly woman who was terminally ill and who was very worried, who was very upset about her physical state, and therefore became very grumpy and very angry. And so whenever the doctors approached her, she would scold them, she would get angry, etc. And so the doctors were scared to approach her, they were scared to go and see her.
Dine amjiji da kwesala trodi ene robotze kablone khato tateda da khogarchegda.
So when the doctors went all together to see this elderly lady, so they were like looking from the back, like some of the doctors would look from the back and check, what is she doing today? So here, in particular, so when this one doctor, he was like looking, kind of watching what the lady was doing, and so as she went on scolding and being upset and grumpy and so forth, this doctor would just look at her and smile. And at some point, without any response by this doctor, so this doctor wouldn't react. And so, because there was no response coming, she kept on going, and at some point she was just exhausted and stopped drinking. And so then this doctor, once she had calmed down, that is like once she got tired of talking, she slowly calmed down, she became more relaxed. And then this doctor took the opportunity to talk to her in a relaxed and calm way. So talking about her medical history, talking about her situation, the treatment and so forth. And so both of them, in a very calm and relaxed way, were able to talk to one another. So then the other doctors asked this particular doctor, how did you do this? How did you go about this, that she became so calm? What did you do? So the response was, this doctor said, well, he said, if I was thinking, if that was my mother, and so with this in mind, he responded accordingly.
딜라디다 두시점기 펜도지 용거라 기시팅이 아마이나 딩이 부구이나 세지기 딘지기 다 펜도지 리거라.
So therefore, like taking on the notion of this being my child, kind of visualizing, imagining, or this being my mother, for instance, that can definitely have some benefit.
다 이내 베게 자외 거라네 다 콜 거기 gen키니 제와지바지 소엘라 두시점기 때스 가고 인기래.
But just visualizing, so without actually taking responsibility in terms of generating compassion, just visualizing someone to be one's mother, etc., that in itself would not be sufficient.
디지디 아니 디기 섬로 원네디 코레게 된다라 아니 기왕마치 리베투 아니 기왕마치 리베투 토네 아니 기왕마수지 아마체요레스 레네투스 리베투고요.
So in this way, thinking along the lines that have just been explained, so what one should do is basically contemplate the fact that we've lived in previous lives, so to reflect upon the different reasonings that are presented to establish the existence of past lives, and then based on that reasoning also to establish that everyone has been our mother, everyone has been in a previous life has served as our mother.
디 딘디톨라 섬로 테스트당된 딘디기 섬로 땅나 초로시라 매바체 안 딘디 카둘라 네 교왕같이 녜라 교왕같이 남샤들 테스 장제 김제당 딘디 빼당 딘디 몽베토네 루주당 두즈토네 장제 안디 이마카시 장사위체라 아니 신의 섬로 땅도잖아 신의 초로리기도 생기되네도.
And for those for whom it's difficult to really think along those lines of thinking that we've lived before and everyone has been our mother, etc. So for those who find it difficult to generate a feeling, independence on that kind of contemplation, well, they should then take some time to reflect upon past lives, past and future lives. So reflect upon the reasons that establish past and future lives, the different types of examples. They should contemplate stories, different stories, and familiarize themselves, learn about those different aspects of past and future lives. And then once that has taken place, then they have a better understanding of the fact that sentient beings have been our mother, etc. And so they can go on with this particular practice.
딘디톨라 섬는데 당연히 있나다 교마마 요리 요마리 치마 요리 요마리 시니다 신주제고에 차례.
So a person who's really serious about this particular practice needs to make an effort to reflect upon whether there are past lives, whether there are future lives, to really give it a go in terms of contemplating these ideas.
디가블다 가시고레 samtango yachila di sumudha karsa mathonga mebathonga ni chibar chevres oti sumudha.
And so in this context in particular, what we need to think about is the fact that there is a difference between not seeing and seeing that something doesn't exist. Or in other words, not perceiving something versus perceiving that something does not exist. There's a difference between the two.
Di karasina nge chozi di kangla ani karlawa ta porba laurve porba mindus nge taje tugure.
So giving an example for this, for instance, in front of Geshe on this table, there is no cup. So Gela doesn't see a cup, and so therefore, in dependence on Gela not seeing a cup, he can decide, he can be very decisive about the fact that there's no cup on this table. However, in front of Geshe on this table, or the objects in front of Geshe, that they are made of small particles, so these tiny small particles that all have different names, that are given different names. So these particles Geshe cannot see, but just because he cannot see them, that does not mean that these particles are not right there. I see. The reason for that is that if there were a cup in front of Geshela on this table, this would be an object that Geshela could see. Whereas on the other hand, with regard to those particles, these are objects that Geshe doesn't have the capacity to see. So it's not possible for him to actually perceive them. So that's the difference between those two. I see. So, therefore, with regard to past and future lives, if they existed, there's no reason for why Gela should be aware of them, why he should see them. So, it's just because he doesn't see them doesn't mean that they do not exist. So, just by reason of the fact that Gela doesn't see them, does not establish their non-existence. So likewise, if there were past and future life, we cannot say that therefore if they existed, scientists would have to see them. So this would not be correct to say such. So therefore, it's not a correct reason. This is not a correct reason to establish that past and future lives do not exist because no one sees them. So in the scriptures you find several different reasons that establish the existence of past and future lives. In particular of past lives you find all these different reasons that establish those. But actually what is easier for us, or an easier method to come to an understanding of the existence of such past lives is to remember past lives. The reason being that people remembering their past lives, to understand that, we do not need to look at the scriptures, we do not need to search in the scriptures, but rather we can read other texts or other books of accounts of people remembering past lives, as well as there are lots of stories around that we can hear about, we can learn about to understand that people remember their previous lives. So in general, also for those who do already believe in past and future lives, when they hear these stories about people remembering their past lives, well, that makes the whole idea, the whole concept of reincarnation even clearer. So here with regard to citing the reason that this does not exist because it cannot be seen or because I don't see this kind of reason, whether we believe in that, we actually express this sentiment or we don't express this sentiment. But for many of us, that is one of the reasons for why we do not believe in the existence of something. We do not believe in the existence of such because we cannot see it. So there was an Indian once who did some research, on past and future life. So whenever he heard of an incident of a particular child remembering a past life, he would go to see this particular person and examine whether the story or whether their memory was in accordance with reality. So when they talked about the situation that they'd experienced in a previous life or the places they had been to see whether that whether these places really existed, etc. So he came to understand that they had very vivid memories of a previous life. However, as it so happened, every person that he researched, when there was a boy who remembered a previous life, he always remembered being a boy. And when there was a girl, she always remembered having been a girl. So from that he concluded that boys are always reborn as boy, or a male is always reborn as a male, and a female is always reborn as a female. So actually this is a case of, again, because he didn't see anything but this, he came to the wrong conclusion with regard to this, only because he did not encounter a case where a female was born as a male or vice versa. So therefore it is easy to determine that something does exist, in the sense that all we need to do is find one example of something existing, and then we can determine that this particular phenomenon does exist. Whereas on the other hand, determining that something does not exist, we need to check each case and make sure in each case, because just it doesn't exist in one situation does not mean it doesn't exist at all. So therefore we need to establish that it cannot exist in all sorts of different situations, which makes it harder to establish the non-existence of something. So in Gena's family there was also a case of someone remembering past lives. So one of his uncles, one of his paternal uncles, his wife, she died. At some point she died, and when she was reborn, she was born as a little boy and had a very vivid memory of being the husband of Gena's uncle. And so she at some point when the uncle passed away, who used to be her husband from a previous life, and they came together for the wake. So usually in the area where Gena is from, the women would cry very loudly, and they would express their sorrow very, very loudly. And so this small boy, who's the reincarnation of this particular wife, he acted just like the wife. So in front of everyone she was crying and grieving very loudly, and she made everyone else cry in the process.
young Geshe any the Wangmo tenle the namdog sushare karisana Wangmo killing in Lumbana lamato kemaling Lumbana that in Mindula. The Maton the Mevare, quick Wangmo Kimaluma Samal die Yomar.
So also similarly, what is often the case is that people say that these memories are not actually memories of children remembering their past lives, that they just make those up, because they claim that such memories, or such so-called memories, as they would say, that those only occur in places where past and future lives are accepted to exist. This does not happen, they claim, in places where past and future lives are not accepted to exist. So Gela is saying that is again a case of someone just believing in something, or just establishing or believing in the existence of something because they haven't seen it.
Then Wangmo Chun Kimaling Chuju Tindin Lole Tindi Wangmo tending is yonder.
This is because in some places where, although with regard to the religious system, for instance, it does not set forth the concept of reincarnation, nonetheless there are individual stories, or there are again and again certain stories of children remembering their past lives. So that does occur.
In a Wangmo killing in Lumbana Lola Tinge Manga Tongue Gire. And dinner she taking it in a promotion in the promoting in the Mangatoy.
However, it is definitely the case that in countries where past and future lives are accepted, that there are more occurrences of children expressing the fact that they were remembering past lives. So in the case of this Indian that Gela mentioned earlier, of like a girl being reborn as a girl, a boy being reborn as a boy, etc. But that they're really but there are really more. It's difficult to say that there are actually more who do remember. I mean, to say that in a country where there is reincarnation, where reincarnation is accepted, that there are actually more people that do remember. That's it. So the reason being that actually in the cases of those countries that do accept past and future lives, when a child does mention or when the child does express a memory or talks about a memory they have of a previous life, well, the parents encourage it. They will believe that child and bring it out into the open, like talk about it with other people and possibly investigate the claim that this child makes. Whereas on the other hand, in countries where there's no acceptance of reincarnation, in that case, parents are not likely to believe their children. They're more likely to believe that their child is crazy or has some crazy ideas here, or is lying, and they may possibly subdue the child in the sense of telling the child not to talk about this or scold the child for expressing such sentiments. So in Indian TV they've also shown some cases. So this was not someone actually investigating past and future lives, but nonetheless they showed this on TV about reincarnation, that they talked about like children remembering their past lives. So there was a small child, they showed this small child who was about 5 to 6 years old, and so this particular child said that this is not my home, so I come from a different country, I come from a different place, and this is not my home. So this particular child would say, I come from this country, the name of the country is such and such, and I'm married, I have a wife. So he gave this child gave the name of the wife. So even when he was told not to talk about this, he could not stop and he would continue talking about it. So at some point his father got angry and scolded him very roughly. He scolded him very strongly. And that led to the child experiencing mental problems. So not being able to talk about what he wanted to talk about, that led to some mental problems. And at some point when he was in school, he drew a picture of a house, and in front of the house there was a car, and there was someone who shot at someone around that car, near that car. So at that time, one of the teachers became aware of this child's change, how the child had changed, and so called the parents and asked the parents, what has happened? Is there any problem? Is there some problem that the child experiences? Because the child does not act in the way that it did before. And so at that time, the parents responded by telling the teacher that there was this situation that the child talked about previous lives, etc., and that the child was scolded as a result of talking about it all the time. So the teacher then said, well, the teacher said that he didn't really know about this and was not really familiar with these cases, but recommended the parents to go and see a doctor. So this particular teacher knew a doctor and gave the parents the address of a doctor that they could see about this problem.
Ladi Pamani the Hendrud. During Nishizaji were Kiran Labdagi Kinjiri and get it into shaking this. The Kolani Kiwangama and among their rank it is Koda.
So when they saw this doctor, then the doctor's response to this was, well, he listened to the story first, and then he responded by saying, well, maybe there's something to what the child says. Maybe there's some reality, or there's some this actually really happened, that this child has lived before and remembers a past life. And he recommended the parents. He recommended for them to go to this place and examine it. And the parents were astounded that a 21st century person would give this kind of advice. They thought this person, this doctor, was just suffering from blind faith in past and future life. But the doctor said that he had experience with those cases, and therefore that it was a good idea for the parents to investigate.
아니 파게 저네 니치 모트 딘지나 타그리베스 디나마 계속하다가 라투메스 다시그레스.
And so the parents asked him whether the doctor thought that investigating, going to the place that the child claimed to have lived before, would that solve the problem? Would that make the child get better? And the doctor said he didn't know that. I see. So anyway, they made an appointment and they all went together with the doctor to investigate. So when they came to this particular country or the state where this child said this child had lived before, so actually as they were approaching this place, they took the wrong turn. But the child was able to tell them, we took the wrong turn, we should go this way. And so as they continued on, they came past a tea stall, and the child was saying, oh, the tea stall has really changed. And then they came to a particular house, and the boy said, stop this car, this is my house. So they actually stopped in front of his house, and the child was able to recognize that as his house, or the house from his previous life. And so then as they went inside, there was an elderly man or an older man came towards them, and right away he said brother. He said like a younger brother. He approached, or he called him brother. And so the parents apologized. They said, sorry, we're coming to see you here. The reason being that our child has some problems, some mental problems, and we're trying to solve this problem, we're trying to solve this issue, and this is why we came to see you here. And so I apologized for disturbing this person. I see. And so when they were inside the house, then they were shown some photographs, and the child was able to recognize the situations that were depicted in those photographs. He was saying, "Oh yeah, at that time we did such and such. At that time we did so and so." So the child was able to correctly identify the different situations when those photographs were taken.
아니 파르디타 디타 테제치네 아니 기멘디 민텐제 코카요르스 제가 진짜.
And so at some point there was a picture of the wife from the previous life, and so when he saw this picture he was asking, "Where's my wife? Where is she?" And so they started to search.
기멘디레 모신 데네 콘주기티 다자다 데네 테이도 다 암지다 부 바만다 두슬라.
And so they did search for they called her, basically called the wife, and she came. And so they gave some tea to the doctor and to everyone present there. So they sat together with the wife.
아니 디인서요 단다 자르게 제 오만나라 쮸시 유지요 칼라지 어디인서요 디제가요 부고들 제가 용디 데스 쮸시 마티카고 추네메 와치 디에 쳔베 제사를 했어요.
So then they in this particular place they would offer some rice in the kind of vessel to give to the guests, and so they offered it to the child, and the child kind of looked wary of that particular dish and said, "Have you forgotten that I don't like that dish? You've also forgotten that?"
디제라 아니 부고실레 아니 딘데치네 아니 부고디 녜 부고레 마레 딘데티 기제지 셰네 아니 디바치네 아니 코테스 디제로드 단다 기메디 빈저충의 기메 차대도 그 기메디 어디바치네 직진에 코테스 템퍼트로스로치네 리로.
And so then the child came. So the child they were there together, and at some point the child kind of started to faint because the wife from the previous life had married the younger brother from the previous life. So they had married them, and as a result of that, the child became upset and fainted.
다 간제니 주딘데 망부 중제 아니 슐라 디 가르시고레 암지디기 다 군조 참아 요살라 아니 디바질레 네미 디바질 나자시 당기도 나자 당네 디치디 암지디 딜라들 다 디자치 가데르스 다 야부 중송스 다 산이 니티 뮤지치네 자디사나 다 참모 땡기레스 다 참모 땡투고 말레스 참모 땡나 아니 코다 트라이레 어요레스
So then in the end they all were sitting there together and with the doctor and so forth, and so the child at some point said that the child experienced some pressure at the back of his head. So saying he experienced this pressure at the back of his head, the doctor kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, there must be some nerve. There's some nerve that needs to be taken out or needs to be released here." So he said, "Okay, this is easy. I can treat this tomorrow. I will treat this tomorrow, and then you should be able to retrieve your memory and you should be able to solve this particular problem."
디 챙기 다 주제 담은 입어디 발라 아니 미치 티키니요 저 부디 세가요 람산지 미디 수르스나 빈자 중화들이다.
And so they stayed there. They stayed the night. They stayed in this house. And at nighttime, someone came to murder the child, and they were able to hold it. They were able to catch this potential murderer and found this was the younger brother of the person who was now this child. I mean, of the previous life. They found it was him trying to murder the child.
So
the reason being that actually the doctor saying when he identified this pressure on the back of his head, he actually lied about it. It was not true that there was a nerve or something. The doctor was kind of did this on purpose to make them stay there.
안 되게 암지를 버당제 아니티 격진시 in case she did any can't cost that besastin and tell Segayo, the
The reason that the doctor did that trick, or he planned that trick, was that after the boy had fainted, when he regained consciousness, he whispered to the doctor, he told him so that no one else could hear it, actually I remember I was killed by my younger brother. So the doctor was aware of now the danger of the younger brother was giving to this boy, or the danger that the boy was in, and so he planned everything he had said. He was just planning to do this in order for them to stay the night and then catch the younger brother, who he knew would probably come to kill the boy in order for the boy not be able to talk about the situation.
Pinja Gembati Mojona Yonje Duchin Nangi Complate Levatan, Pinja Chumatiki, Mendajam Setawatan, the Mojotangichtua, Luchuptin Sachi Yamdo, Mojotanting, Yobosina, Yobola Kanji, Body Yamdo Yorva, Mendajasawa, the Mendadi Dus you, your body is seller. Your body Tagasichin Dus Chiba, the Misses or Lankeja, Nandoniki made a Mikashi Leon. And pay me she theory, your body level and the Yorba. That you was one and see.
So what happened, as they found out, what happened was in the previous life, this child in his previous life, he lived in that house with his wife, and the younger brother, he killed him. He killed him when the older brother came with the car. He arrived from somewhere, and as he was arriving, he had a driver, a chauffeur, he had a driver, and so the driver was like a 17-year-old boy, and so as they approached the house, the older brother got out of the car, and the younger brother shot him. And as he shot him, he threw away the gun, and the chauffeur, the driver, he was yelling, "There's a murderer, murderer!" And he picked up the gun. And as the wife and everyone came running out of the house, they thought it was the driver who had killed the older brother. And so as a result of that, he was put in prison, and he was still in prison, accused of the murder of the older brother. And so as a result of having examined the situation and having found out what had actually happened, the driver and the younger brother changed places. So the driver went to prison. Sorry, the driver was released from prison, whereas the younger brother went to prison. So this situation was shown on TV, but it was not shown actually. They didn't report about this to establish that their past and future lives. It was just how they solved this murder. So that was kind of the main theme of the story. But as a kind of side theme, they also described the situation of the boy remembering past life.
Could the September Samina, could General career tensi barba. Ready, that could temper nation, Chintom, Ninju Lumba, such a teacher's lava nation, packet to the Tata Moche or Inza, the consumer temper in my body could save a child.
So, with regard to these situations, they occur quite frequently. So, actually, if this boy had just made up this story, well, he could have made up anything. However, in this particular case, what he did remember was the name of the place, the name of the state or the country. He remembered the name of the place exactly. He knew all the details. So he knew all the details, and as a result of that, they were able to examine and find out what had actually happened. So this is definitely a case of someone remembering what had happened. And then there's also some cases of people having visions in dream, some kind of premonition or some kind of clairvoyance. So there are these cases where actually they can certify what other people do remember. So through these dreams, through these premonitions, etc., people can actually certify that a particular memory does accord with reality.
That tigdore dichigu lama tuya karresina tindi tigdore janjayina misumbo chile ane ngakho yins ane khoya amala nge amayi tindi te yonguguro tindi chie lujina la toyamido deba tanda khala ine misumbo chile ya injimi mishi sajoji tengo yake yomaro tadi Palsang 미시 사교 짠자로 단다 젠데 다 미시 기계자이나 미숨부지레 제 용거로 마 계산모이 계산모게 아마라게 아마 티디 마 ceremony 제 용거로 티디 용문도 제
So here in this case in particular, so if it's only like those people who have these dreams, actually we cannot say that in those cases that like actually this is like the memories we find other people have. Those are memories from people who have lived before. So it's not possible that this is like that these dreams are just kind of being made up basically. So it's really like it's not like, otherwise we would all have these kind of occurrences, but this is something which only happens, which only take place for people who have died basically, and then they remember having done such and such.
And then Tigala, and then Titoa, Pagit Tindri Sebo tending into the Teodo, Pazo. The Hidina, Koran Kimela Kabushuda, Kimedilla Kabutua.
So also there are cases of like love, of having great love for another person, and in this case also here of a wife from a previous life, that there is this connection still with that person.
Tindri Kyo Mama Sebo Tinginchila, and Kyo Mamaki, that Kimedi Zala Chinje, China Kandasi Chigus, and teaching a Sebo Shivu Chungsha, or Tuesday that Tingsang Korangi, that Kasur Pugu. kenzabutireta baba chunju cha buju kaje tsewa do penzi sebu shibu temba inza pae tsewa je tsue tsewa kola nangin cha derda.
So there also other there. So therefore there are cases of like a couple where one has died and has been reborn as a child and remembers this and goes home to see this particular person who was a wife or a husband in a previous life, and then they also have children, for instance, and so there's this child and then with this person, and they have this loving relationship, although now they're no longer having this husband and wife relationship, but rather one is a child, one is an older person, but still there's this love that still exists between them.
Tanda mingdi tada jemasu lumba mendi tanda ti karsa nyama ti ma chesa di ari ma japsa di inse mare kaji lumba ji Iraq mare shindaji kaji lumba ji re o jagar ji ge tela kyo nga chi tin ni su ji shimju chi ga chi ni o tinna la kyo nga ma tin ji Kurati Kyawangam Pugudi Yusara, Kuram Tongse Test Tanya Winsara. Among Yimbates Yagaji Ten Shimuji, Lamsanki Ratus.
So here there was a case of a country that America fought a war with. So it's a Muslim country, so we were trying to figure out which Muslim country it could be, so Iraq or Afghanistan. Anyway, in this particular country, quite a few of them, so in one of those countries there was a child who remembered past lives, and an Indian person went to investigate, went to check whether this is whether this was authentic or not. And so there was this little boy in a particular place. And so they lived in a kind of remote place, and the
Korangi Amangi Korangi Batirva, and Tesi Yaba Shimbut in the Tena, Korangi Puguli Kiga Yorta, Pugul to
So he had a child from a previous life, and so when his mother gave him some good food, something nice to eat, he would always go to this other place to then give it to his child. So he had this familiarity or this kind of habit from a previous life to feed his own child. So that's why he would always go to his child from a previous life and feed the child. So just saying that a previous life has existed, that we've had a previous life, that we lived before, is not reason enough to establish that everyone has been our mother. However, it is in combination with the fact that we've existed since beginningless time, so that establishes that everyone has been our mother at some point.
Thoma me lay the Tescalicar, and the Joamama Lavale Thoma me lay the Tescalicar.
So it's actually more difficult to establish that not only we've had past lives, but that we've had past lives since beginning this time. That is even more difficult to establish. So naturally the question arises in our mind, what was the first life? What was the beginning?
In Thomas Shabaina, the Toma di that Queen Leming in Chadura.
However, the problem is if there were a first life, so if there was a first life that we've taken for the first time, the problem with that, or the absurdity, would be that this particular first life does not have a substantial cause that gave rise to that first life. And if this first life were to not have a substantial cause, well, it would also not have any cooperative conditions. So that would mean that this very first life has arisen without causes and conditions. It has arisen independent of causes and conditions, which would not make sense. So if we say that this first life has arisen causelessly, that this is the result, or this has arisen but doesn't have a cause, the question that then arises is, why did this first life arise at that time and did not arise before that? Why did it not occur earlier? So therefore, if we trace back particles, for instance, physical particles or atoms, we can trace them back endlessly. So there's no beginning, in the same way as there's no beginning to physical objects. So likewise we can say with regard to consciousness, there's no beginning. There's no beginning to consciousness. It existed since beginning this time. And so, in dependence on this type of reasoning, we can then establish that everyone has been our mother since we've existed since beginning this time. So, therefore, everyone has at some point been our mother. And some people, they don't remember having lived before, and so therefore they say very decisively that there is no past or future lives because I don't remember a past life. So saying just because I don't remember having lived before, and so therefore someone has not been my mother, etc. Well, Geshe is saying, I don't remember what I did 6 years ago, so that would mean that 6 years ago I did not exist because I don't remember. And some, as a result of accidents, when they, for instance, hit their head very, very hardly or very strongly, they may suffer from amnesia, or they may suffer from not being able to remember what has happened in the past, so they don't remember who their parents are. But just because they don't remember, we cannot say that they don't have parents, that they don't have a mother and a father. So it's therefore we can come to the conclusion it's just a matter of not remembering. If we were to remember our previous lives, then we would remember that other people have been our mother. So this person has given me love as a mother. I've given them my love as a mother, and so forth. We would be able to remember all these situations. So someone who harms me, for instance, so of course I don't have that ability, but if I had that ability, I could make that person remember, for instance. So the person who wants to harm me, if then suddenly they remember how I've given them all this love, then I could stop them from harming me. So actually it's just a matter of remembering or not remembering here. So if actually we were to remember, if we could remember, so this is actually a fact that did happen. We didn't have previous lives, we just don't remember it. But if we were to remember it, love would naturally arise. So this is really just something we should need to contemplate. We need to contemplate to come to the conclusion we just don't remember.
Geshe ita gyawanga ma susi pama cheba ine susul kabu cheba ine di gachares. Chizan tanda ani tirwa che mindus dilegare.
But some would say, well, yeah, maybe these beings or these people have been my mother, they have been my parent in a previous life, but that is gone. That situation is over now. So they have been my parents, but now I have no longer any connection with them.
Tindi cheba ina tandagi susu amamola di susu kiere chunjunkangla tato chiere tsewa che di sama gachar tanda yomar.
So that's the case. Well, likewise, if our mother is elderly now, it's like an elderly person now, well, yeah, this is gone now. Her giving birth to us, her taking care of us, raising us, etc. All that is past.
지금 기지 레기 토는 기지 셰바 있는 큰가라 펜토스 라이제 요말 가산 펜토에 들은 가사를.
So actually, in each moment we can say that there's no one to really benefit us, in the sense that in each moment the person who's benefited us yesterday, well, that is gone already. So in this moment it no longer exists.
아니 균기 전에 셰바 있나 다 심지 참았다 수술을 제가 제딩이 차대었다. 수지 파마칭이 차대요.
But when we talk from the point of view of a continuum, from the point of view of a continuation or a continuum, well then everyone has shown us love. And at some point with regard to an earlier continuum, that will have been our parents.
딩상다 동바 제볼로에 도와 파파도스 제볼로니 공치 못해지. 아니 수지 아마 동바 제볼로네 아마랑 자로하다.
So nowadays there are people who have facial surgery, so who change their face, who pay a lot of money and make their faces look very different from before. So actually it's a similar case here, that someone who's been our mother, they just have a different face. So but if a mother, for instance, changes her face through surgery, that doesn't stop her from being our mother.
아니 아마라 부스 바바 부스에 요래 발라 보모스에 여러 딩상 이수에 차네 지딘 타니기 아마라 둘라데오 메르메데 인주 다가라로 왔다 윤기 전에.
And also our father could become a woman through surgery, and our mother could become a man through surgery. So it's kind of weird to call this person our mother now, when now they're a man, but in actuality they continue to be our mother in a sense. So in the case of someone having been our parent, now it's like their entire body has changed. So they have a totally different body, but they're still, in a way, they're still our parent. So in this way, we should think about this again and again, contemplate this again and again. And if we do so, then slowly we will generate some faith in past and future lives. And as a result of that, in turn, we will be able to generate love towards sentient beings. So therefore, this is what this particular verse here, verse number 4, says, that there's not a single sentient being who has not resided in my womb, or there's not a single one that has not resided in my, there's not a single sentient being in whose womb I have not resided.
아니 다 디치디 규레 규레 강기 말라 아니 다 가르시고래 다 고모 아니 봄카시 봄추 지마 때마 융이 제요 말했어.
So likewise, we can change the words, the wording in this verse. We can say, well, there's not in a single one who's not given us 100,000 rupees, 1,000,000 rupees, etc.
And
there's not a single sentient being who's not worked hard for my benefit. So in this way, we can take different reasonings here to establish different scenarios. And so, in that sense, also from the point of view of someone having been my parents, so what they've provided me was accommodation. They've given me a place to stay. They've given me things. They've given me love, and so forth.
Ta digan dina la ngusu masumbi riba dine pa di riba tagaran peche tangje dina la ngusu masumbi riba chi tanda kumbulutu gi chanju semte peche shentana la sumyore.
So there's some reasonings in this particular text that are not explicitly expressed, but they're explicitly expressed in Nagarjuna's commentary on bodhicitta.
Di karesina ane nge kiwa ngama mambo dosine mazu chamata kiwa mambo ni kiwa inza nge ane tsar mambo konzoli ne ke tsabares sechi.
So what is this reasoning? So the reasoning is here that since we've existed for many lifetimes before, since we existed before, over many lifetimes I've harmed other sentient beings.
Ta dila tanda chanju semje korana la chidu pe ko sher nge gi tsar mambo an konzoli ne ba jeba nashi ane pendoe chejigire sin pe ko sher yochi.
And so in this particular text, the commentary on bodhicitta, so they give an example here. So they're saying, taking the example of as I have benefited many sentient beings in previous lives. So this is the example that then exemplifies that I've also harmed sentient beings over many lifetimes. So maybe it's just a matter of translation.
kunjo bang ta kanji chen karina kurangi sungji nang lo la kari resena rigbati peji tanji pe ma kwe ba che pa char mangbu ne ba che chaware dindi yinsang gyunzen kwe ene pa pendo che rigire sechi.
So it may be just a matter of translation, because in another commentary on this particular text by another Indian master, Geshe is not sure about the name of this person, he kind of explains this particular passage slightly differently by saying, instead of using that as an example, as using the fact that we've also benefited others as an example to show that we've harmed others, rather than that he's saying, well, I've harmed a lot of sentient beings, I've harmed a lot of sentient beings in previous life, therefore it is suitable, it is appropriate for me now to benefit them.
Kunjo bang sa tsena. Kunjo bang.
Kunjo bang. So in the name of this master is Kunjo bang.
Yunden taye ber tubas. Beje mingda. Yunden taye ber tubas.
So wishing for endless qualities. Wishing for endless qualities, that's the name of this text.
So
this is something to think about, to ponder. So basically we come to the conclusion, I've harmed others so many times, so it's alright if they harm me. It's okay if now they harm me because I've harmed them so many times. And likewise to consider the fact that many times in the past when I had problems, people helped me, other sentient beings have helped me. So likewise now with sentient beings experiencing problems, now it's my turn to benefit sentient beings.
But
actually some people, when they hear this kind of reasoning, they respond by saying, well, in the same way as they have been my parents, I've also been their parents. And in the same way as I have harmed them, they've also harmed me. So they use this kind of reasoning. They apply this kind of reasoning. So here we're not actually debating. This is not about the debate. Of course, if we debate, we would have to examine this. But this is not a matter of debating this. So if you force someone, for instance, to say, well, you have to help them because they helped you in the past, then it's not a matter of saying, well, I also helped them, so why should I help them here? So this is not what it's all about, to kind of set equal to equal, in other words, so kind of equalizing this. So the reason we should consider this fact is actually for us to generate love in our continuum.
아니 겨 아무 리브레트 주체 주차비체라 아니 거의 겨 아마만가는 뇌게 요레스 근데 상당되나 가려 콘도체를 두르다 오늘을 길게버이나 벤도미도 어디 공고에 게임도 어디.
So actually, if we now consider the fact that a person has been our mother in a previous life, if then on the other hand, I consider the fact that they've harmed me in the past, well, there's no benefit to think about it, because as a result of that, all that happens is I get angry with this person, I get unhappy, I get angry with this person. So what is the point of familiarizing ourselves with the fact that others have harmed us?
기왕아마 수펜타요리 디삼당바이나 디양양당바이나 제와기고르 제와게바이나 콜 팽비경 기자마로 소소리 팽기요리 찔레 팽기요리 디지디산에 다디 땅고 해지 차버와.
On the other hand, if we think of the fact that other beings have helped us in a previous life, well then if we think about this, if we consider this again and again, love will naturally arise in our mental continuum, and that benefits us, and it benefits others in general. So there's a good reason for considering this fact again and again.
제자 실람 제부기 남샤시에비나네 시 남샤시에비까도 지부지경 수펜타 파페마타 디 지부지경 시어로다 무연이시랑 디시엔 두거로 다 람기간 레디자네 디낭로네 섬로 카리 양양 땅나 수술 팽기레 섬로 카리 양양 커버이나 수술 뇌그레스 뇌디 파 땅모고체 팽에디 줄레로 람스디 디로다.
So therefore, when we talk about these three aspects of the basis, the path, and the result, well, with regard to the basis is that which refers to reality, how things really are. So from that point of view, we can say, yes, all sentient beings have benefited us, have harmed us. So this is in accordance with reality, this is the case. So from that point of view, this fact pertains to what we call the basis. But then with regard to the path, here we're not considering both aspects, because what we're doing is we only familiarize ourselves with that which is beneficial to us. We will not familiarize ourselves with that which harms us. So in that sense, we consider the fact that sentient beings have benefited us because that consideration does benefit us, and the opposite harms us. So that's why we leave it aside. And so therefore, this consideration of sentient beings having benefited us, it pertains to the path aspect of Buddhism. So anyway, these reasonings, those two reasonings that were described here, they connect to past and future lives.
다 리버시버디 엔시양 좀된데라 다카데스 간치 디다치도 좀된데 신도 유림원의 교주와 대장단의 심제나마가스 당거라 좀된데라 가고요 레스티로다 대바지 다 좀된데 대바 메딩이지라 som다이데게 요마와 근데 유에딩이지기 다 좀된 심제 관계치도 좀된데 규림부 시부지링다 아니 칼레잡체 아니 배전낭데 세기 심진디게디 디게디레 딘디 인자 아니 마기다 심진디게디라 제와 자유 바레스지.
So then with regard to the fourth reasoning, or the fourth reason for generating love towards sentient being is expressed in verse number 5, which reads, "Further I am fond of the Buddha, as he worked hard for the sake of these sentient beings for a very long time. That too makes me fond of sentient beings." So here, the first line is talking about liking the Buddha, or being fond of the Buddha, which in other words, what it really means is having faith in the Buddha. And of course, this particular verse is addressed or is directed at those who have faith in the Buddha, because otherwise this verse wouldn't work for someone who has no faith in the Buddha. But basically, having faith in the Buddha, we then see, I'm fond of the Buddha, I have faith in the Buddha, and as he worked hard, he exerted himself, and for the benefit of whom? For sentient beings, so for a very long time. Therefore, I will also be fond of sentient beings. So that is the reason, because of the Buddha who have faith and working hard towards sentient beings for a very long time, I'm also fond of sentient beings.
Tadi ribadi page kunjo kelingi samala ta jioni chena kunjo kelingi samala ribadi taedo.
So this particular reasoning here, verse number 5, well, anyone who believes in a kind of rare jewel, as it's described, so the Buddha being like a rare jewel, or God, and so forth. So a person one has faith, or a being one has faith in. So in that case, the reasoning here is the same. So whether you apply God or the Buddha. So here, yes. So, but actually, then we cannot say all sentient beings, because when we take God, for instance, God is said to have love for all humans. So again, we're saying probably not for all sentient beings, but for all humans. So here, no matter what is the object of faith one believes in, whether it is Buddha or God and so forth, so in any case, so whoever we regard highly, whoever we have great respect for, so when this person, when this particular being considers in particular humans to be very precious, then it is not appropriate for us to harm them, and it is appropriate for to be fond of these beings, because this particular, whether God or Buddha, is also fond of those human beings, so loves those human beings. Because of that, we should also express love towards these beings.
수수기 제와 원내에는 제와 원내 제사 딜라 아니 야고충나 미신다기 로봇체바이나 미들랑 신기 수수 가부차이지 용대와.
This is because when we really like someone, we really have love towards a person, we really love someone, then when another person helps the person that we love, then we naturally will feel love towards the person who helps our loved ones.
가수래 디 파만드가 잘바이나 소세부구디 강에시 우체디비칼라 아니 소소티레 냠마투바지 내다 덴지와라 미지기로 바치니 강에들 잡여나 미디 통하나 파마거라 시부지 가기도.
So, for instance, as parents, when their child experiences problems and they're unable to protect their child and help their child, and there's someone else who is able to help this child, then the parents will have great regard. They will have love for this person who has helped their child.
다 먼저 들어있는데 제가 제사 겹충중으로 봐. 다 등산에 있는 경관을 있는 정글링 미тай 용조라다 제와 예배스루지데 순저지기 지강에 태딩에 질 야보제와지 시나 특게다 레셔르다.
So Geshe is saying in his own case, the objects of his love are not very vast. They're so small. They're just a few objects of his own love. Whereas with regard to His Holiness's love being so expansive, being so vast, or the objects of his love being so numerous, that whenever His Holiness sees someone who benefits other sentient beings, he's extremely pleased because of his extensive love.
So His
Holiness has many reasons for being happy because of witnessing so many situations when other people benefit other beings. So he makes them very happy. His Holiness has many reasons for being very happy. So for us, we don't have all these opportunities to be that happy because we only love very few people. And on top of that, there are a lot of people we dislike. So when someone helps those people we dislike, we get angry. Oh, this jerk, they're helping this person I don't like. So we react with anger rather than with pleasure or being pleased.
간다리야 어딘지디 다 제상 라버도 다 데스 띵사베 토네시라 남베기 다 슈네시와데 띵사 그러다.
So in particular, when we talk about more deeper kinds of reasonings here, so those are described in the Buddhist scriptures. They provide even deeper types of explanations.
디 가르스나 상기 좀내데라 다 상기 참말라다 먼저기 리베트로트에 요말 다 상기 샤게 투발라 아니 심지 참말라 타번에 다 제와 예대바지 아니 가산의 시샤와나 신기 닝장바다 닝지 제와들이 예바디 리베트로트고.
So why is that the case? Well, because with regard to, many Buddhas, it's very difficult for us to establish the existence of many Buddhas, but just from the point of view of Buddha Shakyamuni, if we just think of the Buddha of this present era, so here the fact that Buddha Shakyamuni had great love and compassion, this we can actually establish in reliance on reasoning. So these reasonings, they are described in the second chapter of the Pramanavartika by Dharmakirti. So this is not a direct kind of reasoning, but it's a reasoning where we need to take a few rounds. We need to move around a few rounds to get to the exact reasoning here. But Geshe is saying that on top of the reasoning where you kind of need to take a kind of a cycle, like moving around, instead of the, Geshe is saying that there's definitely a straightforward reasoning. However, to apply the straight kind of reasoning, that can only be effective unless you have a certain understanding of the Buddhist teachings. You need to have a sufficient amount of understanding to apply that reasoning. And so, as also explained previously, so with regard to love, compassion, the special altruistic attitude, and bodhicitta, and so forth. So here we need many bases here, basically independence on which we can actually generate those types of awareness. So just one will not be sufficient. We need many. And so on top of it, there are all these hindrances that hinder us or that prevent us from generating these states of mind. So for instance, getting angry, having aversion, bullying others, etc. So all these states of mind, these awarenesses, they serve as a hindrance to generating those awarenesses. So with regard to anger, so how can we stop anger? The reason for why do we have to stop anger, prevent anger? And likewise, there are many different methods that are prescribed, methods that lead us to stopping or seizing anger.
kanji chigni mahimba chine ribda rimba chine kanji ska guguye tinye di kanji trubuguye dizoche di tru saiwe chele yergi kanji trubure nywa kanji kegre kene pendo kanji yore shipsago chine sungdeba dige de lobjen cheyondu jumzen kanga kanzam jingman soge shinye yedeba gozu ne des nimne chewa ina des pendo yedeba ro des chena des pendo yedi shuches chena tende yongsare seji.
So with regard to anger here, so what is the root of what comes before anger? What is it that gives rise to anger? Well, that is attachment. So if we try to end anger or to overcome anger, well then we need to also overcome attachment. And then attachment in turn, that arises from the self-grasping attitude. So then we need to deal with the self-grasping attitude. So there are all these different other levels which basically give rise to anger, and we need to address these other awarenesses which cause the anger and so forth. So in that way we need to gradually all address those. And also kind of create the circumstances, the constructive or circumstances that are beneficial, etc. So in that way, from that, we are slowly able to eliminate these different or decrease these different types of negative emotions, and then gain some kind of experience. Need to understand what kind of experience would that be. What are the benefits of doing this? And so going into all these details, into detail kind of like generating a detailed understanding of that, learn about this, study about this, understanding the reasons that are given for why we should eliminate these different states of minds, etc. And then when we practice this, when we actually put this into practice, so if you practice a little bit, then there's a little benefit. So from that we can come to know that if we practice greatly, there will be a great benefit.
인슈 자고 있는 지레 가진 제들.
So the Buddha himself became ordained at the age of 29, right? He became a bhikkhu, he became monk at 29, isn't that right?
간제다 로카시지 링라다 로종 체스네 되지 기계메비 토네로 기계메비 토네 로카시지라 안티 숨문도잖아요. 다 냠용여버데 보토로 되기 토네.
That's it. And so the Buddha, after he became a bhikkhu, after he became ordained, and for quite a few years, without a teacher, he learned, he practiced, etc., and he gained certain experience. He was able to gain experience himself.
인터내셔널 루지나나 마타요는데 좀내데 무슨 제대민기 아니 기루나가 망부지 제네 칼로나 바타가라네 베 그루아친지 균이 미베 인자부터 즈베 제와 유행이 자된지기 그로 숙지 못해 되는 것도 그래서 김쟁장장 인기 말다 그런 양용유나 숙실되기로
And also when we look at the stories or the history or the biography of the Buddha here, there are many incidences or many occasions when disciples directly approached the Buddha, and when the Buddha gave some advice, when he gave some teachings or instructions, then as a result of that, the audience or this particular disciple generated very strong love and compassion. So this is not just independent on reasoning, correct reasoning, that as a result of that the other person did generate this love, but rather because of the experience of the Buddha, there was something that came from the Buddha, his experience, his great potential had an influence on the disciples so that they were able to generate this type of love in their mental continuum.
디치디자네 다 원주 산제다 진주스바 두절라 쳬바피에디 쳬바기 된다디라이도 쳬베기 된데 녜발라이도.
So therefore, when we talk about making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so this is actually described as achievement. So we achieve something or we get something. So actually making offering, the word that is used, these offerings, is of that of achieving. Or gaining.
산제 단두서이나 산제라 아니 사야 고마레 통해 고마레 강에니 요마레 아니 사야 통해 두서 퓨니 가에케 말 고난 고에메나 가에 요마로.
So actually, when we think about it, the Buddhas, for instance, who we make offerings of food and drink to, so actually they don't need any of those. They don't need those. So if they don't need food and drink and whatever else we offer, there's actually no reason for them to be delighted that we give them those objects, that we offer these objects.
딜레드다 핑행 강사 코로나 소놈 사기레스 딘디지기 가부중에 모두 신가를 대송스니까 해요 말하다.
So therefore the reason that they are pleased, that they're delighted as a result of receiving offerings is not because they receive something which they actually don't need, but rather because the person who makes those offerings generates that, collects a lot of merit.
심지어 강에 trading에 딜라 코로나 제와시 주요 강에 딜레 타로 지나서 그뒤에 선었던 이내 내당직이 게임에 시당직이 시나 산직이 세트고 말하다디. 그 게임은 뭐지 그게? 일단 던지지고 와라. 안간지 디강에 디셀바이나 다 지대나 신시바이나 갔다. 대체로 그러네. 산지되게.
So then, when we consider the fact that there's so many sentient beings who have so many problems, and the Buddhas have so much love for sentient beings who experience so many problems, and so their greatest wish is to liberate, to free sentient beings from those problems and difficulties. But it is because of the circumstances, because of the situation, that they're unable, in many cases, from freeing sentient beings from their difficulties. And so therefore, if instead then we help sentient beings, the Buddhas are so pleased, so they're terribly pleased or delighted as a result of us, for instance, helping sentient beings free them from their problems.
지산타스 디나 신식이 산제기 심진디기디 둥에디 세로 제나테네다 소소기에 내가 없었다 정신성 개발의 순에 가진 정외를 보다 갈래죠. 그러나 갈래 쉽지다. 다다다에 가두이네 다 심진디기디 둥에다 제로 제나스 젠데비디 가두디라 언제기 연주 둥에는 베지 제바이나 다 다비안의 콜로방사를 마도 신다 받으시게.
So therefore the situation is such that the Buddhas would like to benefit sentient beings such that they, if possible, relieve them from their suffering, that take away all their sufferings, free them from those sufferings. And for like a bodhisattva, for instance, who's generated bodhicitta, who now needs to accumulate accumulate merit for 3 countless eons. So all they're working towards, all they're doing is working towards sentient beings, trying to help sentient beings. So that being the case, if then we harm sentient beings, well, we're lucky that the Buddhas no longer have anger, because otherwise they would hit us over the head. So here, basically, what this is saying is like, in the same way as many people are fond of His Holiness, they have faith in His Holiness, they like His Holiness, and as a result of that, they like Tibetans. So in a sense, the people are thinking that His Holiness, the Tibetans are His Holiness, or are His Holinesses. So in that sense, there's this attitude. And then we talk about the Buddhas, well, all sentient beings are the Buddhas.
Tanabe so Butayro, Yamachin Yibika, Tindiki Kalejao, and the Lobjonche, did Sama and the Simjin Tigiti Chiture, Tindinza Simjin Tigiti nature and Mala nature of the Chibare, Simjin Tigiti the Penta and Mala Penta of the Chibares, the Dona Sung, Dodigita, Doditana Pegiri Shabana Yusamare. That Dodigi Tendadi ko Sixi in Kumbulugi, Simjin Korchi with Susiba, Siatina Lola.
So with regard to the situation Geshe just described, well, there is a sutra by the Buddha. It's called the Salty Stream Sutra. So this particular sutra was probably taught near a salty stream. So this is where the name comes from. So in this sutra, what the Buddha explains is that he's worked for sentient beings for countless eons. He's explaining that I've worked for sentient beings not just as a Buddha, but also previous to me being a Buddha, I've given up my life for the sake of sentient beings countless times. So I worked so hard for sentient beings. I learned, I studied, I practiced so hard for sentient beings. So that being the case, therefore, if you harm sentient beings, you harm me. If you benefit sentient beings, you benefit me. So this is what it says in this particular sutra called the Salty Stream Sutra. And this sutra has never been translated into Tibetan. However, this explanation that has just been given, that is cited in another text, in a text by Nagarjuna, which is described, which is called the stanzas or the verses of delighting sentient beings. So the stanzas of delighting sentient beings by Nagarjuna. This is a text that is written in verse form. So this particular text gives the explanation from this Salty Stream Sutra.
Well, do chukala, kuchu paralare, and such a Sujotel, Pajotel, Kambachi, Komdadel, Chitin in Yedish. Abu Haji Sumshi Yomenda, Doshi Chilla, those Doshi. And a gold tailor dollars and a Nanga Amadik Maton, Jokondo, Stanley Chon, pushing the summer to Matis Kutsi in the Tretumas, Kuyoshi.
So when Genla was about 9 or 10 years old, he was in a place, there was a house on the other side, kind of further away, and there was a dog in front of the house, and there were some other boys there, 3 or 4 boys, and they were trying to tease the dog. They were teasing the dog by throwing stones at the dog. And at some point they hit the dog on the head. And as a result of that, the mother came out of the house. She came running out of the house very angry because the children had attacked the dog. So the other children took off. They ran away. But for some reason Genla couldn't run away. So he just kind of backed down. He kind of like tried to make himself small. He was unable to run away. So anyway, this lady came towards Genla and she kind of raised her arm about to hit him. And when she looked at his face, she just went like, okay, never mind, and just kind of left. And so the reason being, not because of him, it's because she recognized Genla, and she's friends with Genla's older sister. So that's why she didn't beat him, because of the sister, nothing to do with Genla, she said.
저는 미코랑 같이 독자 이내이 가리 체내지 저바 간디 이내이 성로 간디 땅내 땅 이내 콜네 개가 주나 코다 가리 미디도 독세도데 이내 산제 상마 콜을 제와시시데 샤오다
So therefore we should be like that basically. However bad someone behaves with regard to us, whatever negative things they say, whatever they do, etc. When we go up and we want to really get angry at them, remember there's the Buddha who loves them. So by reason, taking the reason of the Buddha, because the Buddha loves these sentient beings, we should refrain from harming them.
초진의 시에가 있는다 심진디게들 로봇 체용도 딜라테네다 산제다 진주sem바 참마 다 진주sem바도 참마라 두말 진주sem바 무시 용인도서 캐나 투기그리마도 무시 맹인도서 무시 그 진주sem바 무시 따고로 감전 따는 것도 당말로 다 산제이나 가두이는 천년 가로 딜라도 산제 지니 같이 여버도 참마다 투기로로 딜라도 처범원에 자기여도 뒤처범원에 자기여래 딩원에이나 로봇에서 심진디 가르에서나 먼저다 잠잠을 준비지고라 주된을 준비지고라 공부하러 준비지도라고 진행되도 뒤에 찍버다 인지소수 근절을 치고 원에디 된데 비치고지 피고와 디표에다 로봇 진행이 다 롱게이나다 얘기이나 되게 되다
나래
원에지는 구현 표고다 가다 직전으로
So, to think about it from another angle, actually every time we benefit sentient beings, every time we help someone, well, basically we can think of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas being extremely pleased, being extremely delighted. Well, Gila is saying with regard to Bodhisattvas, well, we need to kind of differentiate here because they are not omniscient yet, but rather use clairvoyance. And it's through their clairvoyance that they can come to know. If they have clairvoyance, then they can come to know that we benefit sentient beings. And again, with regard to clairvoyance, they have to pay attention to something in particular, and then their clairvoyance can pick it up. So they're not omniscient in that sense. But anyway, so there are definitely some Bodhisattvas being aware of the actions we engage in. And for the Buddhas, well, all the Buddhas, not just one Buddha, but each and every Buddha, they will be able to, they'll be aware of the actions we engage in and be very delighted. And this is a type of offering, this is a true offering, this is a real or an actual offering directed at the Buddhas helping other sentient beings. So if that is really the case, well then sometimes there are those who make huge offerings to the monasteries, to different monasteries, etc. They make these huge offerings. So this is actually us helping other sentient beings equals those incredible offerings we make, because we make direct offerings to the Buddhas in that way by helping sentient beings, helping the downtrodden, helping beggars and so forth. By helping these beings, actually someone should make an offering to us, Geshe is saying. Give us a kata and make an offering, or give an offering to this person, helping those downtrodden people. We're just actually helping other sentient beings is an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
진주나라 디송요레 다 직차산 다다다 결고 말해. 겨와세는 예브르 길에도 조만 도배 다기 지르소공 공장미도 지된 건지 제스타 된다디 아니 겨와세다 제바다 투기 해기 지도 아니 심진디기 디기다 니다 땅 아니 가시워다 지르초다 지줄다 인기로다 지월을 동마다 동자시 딘디 제바 이내 아니 세바 이내 아니 파 아니 레볼로그메스 제사 지딩기 공부 아니 상기잖아 투기 보진 티치르치 세지.
So basically it also says in the in Shantideva's Bodhisattva way of life, it says that when we're being hit over the head, when we're being killed, when we're being treated in all sorts of negative ways, we should not retaliate. We should not retaliate because that pleases the Buddha. So basically, not retaliating, not harming other sentient beings in retaliation or as a type of vengeance, that is what pleases the Buddha.
이마티 자르기 정쇼기 아디지 나올라 베바테스 뉴뉴요레 아니 티 베바드절라 티 윌미딘데기 러시안 바카시 테스트 투지탄 거였어요. 담이 뉴차데라 어디나라 미지열에서 dobchin shuji, shukchimboji dobchin shuji yorsa logo yodingi. One jena ta kyun zingheda dindu kyun nangda me dingi. Ta ina karsi ko di dindijila ane sanghaji na chodi pasa nyusumji dongin sarwa. Kade chana ta minga ju kade cha tuwe di yosare. Ta ina ko kade ma chaya karsan di china nyokra lani pebali kyonra gres. Ta jibagi samno ta ane ki ni deyu kijer ta roba dindi ta de yosara. 아니 가zam지네 마샤르와 차르치니 뭐 균무제와 로봇들을 계단 아로 다 인도 다게 직제샤스 다 이서를 다 그다 레벨로니 저거 있어 다 로봇다 이마를 삼는다는 코티 버체로 가zam지네 아르마티 있어 다라 인기로 쓰서
So at some point in the past, in some of the northern kind of regions of India, so there were some small Tibetan settlements, so not many Tibetans lived in those areas, and at some point there was some trouble between the local people, and those Tibetans. And there was also one very strong Tibetan man who was so strong he could have fought with at least 4 or 5 men, and he would have been able to beat them up basically. And in one situation there was this encounter between this really strong Tibetan man and these other young Indian men, and this problem started to escalate. But he was thinking of the other Tibetans. So if he had beaten up those Indians, the local Indians, there would have been great repercussions for everyone else. And so he decided to be patient. So he was beaten up, and he just kind of put his head down. And he was beaten once, beaten twice, and so forth, as he was just sitting there. But at some point he could no longer take it. So his friends were over there, they were kind of there, and he was saying to them, now really, I need to do something. Now I need to really go. Now this is really the time. But he kind of stopped himself in order not to actually cause trouble for everyone else. But it was very hard for him to control himself and not actually retaliate.
담보 뜻수투지 단 디치리 저세지 기분 길리도 세가지. 되게 철카시르는 저세도 지금 공다스.
So the first time then they started beating him up, he was still reciting this verse, of the Bodhisattva way of life, so to please the Buddhas, etc. So I will not do it. And then after a few times, then he was going like, well, yeah, I should please them, but sorry, I can't. If you have any questions? No questions? You have a question? Yes. You need a microphone? Can you please wait for the microphone?
It is said that when we die, we are in the battle, we wouldn't recognize our body, our previous body. How is it possible that people remember so clearly their past? The past person they have been.
Shuna karisongarisna benangazu shidu tsambala ane pardo lakiwale batetsena pardo wadi yikyawa ngama yilu ngonze chegi marisungdu. Tadi ngoma shena ane kyawa chimala yata yankya kyawa shilena kyawa ngama la kandesteyo. Ta pardo kala suzu luila ngonze chema tuna ngoma shena ane shila kyawa ngama teyagi kandesi yonsir.
그래서 그래 벌살라딜라 다 temba 메라 메티그로 다티 문지 마체레마도 temba 유명 기제다 말해 다 간지 벌살라딜라 마체야 첼르티미 니스티니 뭐 용되기도
So Gila is saying that, well, basically there are many occasions when in the meantime you don't remember something, in between you don't remember something, but later on you do, right? So there's situations where in between you're not aware of something, but later on you do remember.
저는 밖에 내가서 마트에 기와 렌산에 tenyo래 기와 렌사디 로치니라 마트에 마치 롱아 두네가 수tenyo래 니치타면도 뭐지요로.
So it's possible therefore that you don't recognize, that is, don't remember that this is your body in the Pardu period, and then later on, once you've taken birth, when you've taken rebirth, then you can remember. Or you can't remember in the in-between state. You can't remember a year or two after you've been reborn, but then at the age of 5 or 6, suddenly you remember. So all this is possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now say, the Russians. What do it
kushodeso karishina nyawola kiwangama nyawodeso ngesonga kiwalengiyores
Kushodeso.
So your question is, why are some monks reborn in the lower realms? She's saying some monks, so that's not too bad. Some monks are So of the monks, of course, there are some monks who accumulate a lot of non-virtue.
In a michi dendroli ching sono trona lamsan dile dendroli king dile mi dendroli king the tugares lamsan lama tueni chiyo.
Well, I mean, actually, in general, we say it is negative actions that take us into the lower realms, and it's positive actions that take us into the higher realms. In general, that being the case, but just if someone is reborn in the higher realms, we cannot say that this is a good person, or someone is reborn in the lower realms, this is a bad person. So we cannot generalize in that sense.
Karesina nga chanchi simba mari chanchi simba phashani ngi chume ke yo mari ke wa nga madila ina tana mili ke tho ina chanchi simba khashi nyawali ke yo.
So the reason being that Gela is saying, taking himself as an example, Gela says, I have not cultivated bodhicitta in my mental continuum, I have not generated renunciation, but nonetheless I'm reborn as a human. And then there are bodhisattvas who take birth in the hell realm.
Karesina ta le yaga mambo yore tuga mambo yore ti nanglo ne ta le yaga chik pichu che torwa tigi intendoli ke torwa tuga shinda tu nega pichu me bache ya le yaga mambo yogi nanglo la shiga la mo nega til le tuga chik yoba til pichu tani intendoli ke yongorwa.
The reason being that of the many different types of karmic actions or karmic seeds in our mental continuum, there are many positive ones, there are many negative ones. And then at the time of death, so when we're reborn, it is one of those karmas that ripens. So one of the positive ones may ripen and there are many negative ones left. Or the other way around, that when we die, one of the negative ones ripens and there are many positive ones left. So basically of the different karmic seeds, one of them ripens and propels us into a different birth.
Jizanta kusho cheba ina tikpa tiye shukchimbo yore. Tomba mengingi tikpa cheba le kilen chesane tikpa cheba ina tikpa shukchiwa yore.
And so, in particular with regard to an ordained person, a monk or an ordained person having certain vows, then a negativity that would not be as grave for a lay person is much graver in the case of an ordained person because of the vows.
And tina shin any tomba mengingi kiwa cheba le
However, likewise, it's also the case with positive action. So a person who has vows, who has particular vows, then any positive action that they engage in is also greater than the positive action of someone who doesn't have those vows.
So this
is like a risky kind of business, a risky business. So when things go really well, you have great profit. When things are really going badly, you may end up in prison. So it's similar to this kind of risky business. So if you don't take certain vows, it's kind of more medium in terms of virtue and non-virtue. Yes.
Yesterday, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday,
Is it on?
Yesterday, Geshema mentioned two views about the nature of mind. One was that that love, compassion, and so forth were the natures of the mind itself, and the other view was that that's a neutral thing, and these qualities need to be developed or something like that. So my question is, who are the two groups of people who hold this view, and if Geshe is willing to share, what is his view on this?
Game Kelsang di karsa semgi rashi dana nyomor du semgi rashi mai bada thachi ne dina ya chi kara gewe choda wa jila karsa da yönten ki chane dela ya tatsu ni yor chi samzume da ni yor sra chik di ani chamninje shebe rashi yi song shi yor sra ani chik di gi chamninje ya shebe rashi da kara semgi rashi mai na ya da khot ta nyom sori ki rashi yina ya ra ke rongwa re sra ta dini kasata das wird na das samzu mit da nie na und dini rere gi samzu sungen susu res susu da na keba na mo zona su samzu susu na res ra ani niba de gen gi samzu khares shamni ji samgyan shi res ni shi ma re gen ka
samzu da susu sine da na ngeti shung na de yeba da tutama wa da tindiki shi me
the
robot so Geshe de tindi samzu mi da ni yeba de samre.
So Gela is saying these two views with regard to the mind, as you just described. It is not that the scriptures actually talk about them, that there are certain tenet systems that prescribe those two views. This is rather a view that among his friends and acquaintances that he has. So these views, these were the two views that people basically held.
Marangi samzu chena semgi ranshin yin la de tesi yaga tongu.
So Geshema's personal view is that he believes that the nature of the mind is something more positive.
Ine tile samlo tes ting sabro matana ya tes jede. Karesan tanda nonzo yede bi ningji du zo tobarwa. Ti samo chishere. Zanta tile chishegi chada ningji imbi chas yo ma chena zawe sheba ina ti semgi ranshin tata la marwa.
So actually it's a little difficult though, if you think about it in more detail, it's easy to get mixed up with regard to this assertion. So actually when we say that the nature of the mind is compassion, for instance, well actually right now our compassion is a conceptual type of awareness. Being on a conceptual mind, it is naturally a mistaken type of awareness. So we need to differentiate between the compassionate aspect of this mind, so a conceptual mind that is compassion, so we need to differentiate between the aspect of compassion of that mind and the mistaken aspect of that mind. So in that way it becomes quite difficult to determine what really is the nature of the mind.
Toningi ko chamo ta yabo ozu yue dengi michigi endine ya jin shidi pangdang du zuma sheyo de sanji de timatamje de jeju de ani ningji da tenji jini ba chimbi da yudu jini lotigi di yue la go ya de pe kange tego.
So here, basically, when we talk about understanding the view, in particular the view of emptiness, so the subtle view of emptiness, and reliance on that, you slowly start to eliminate cognitive obscurations that prevent a practitioner from attaining Buddhahood. So slowly you're able gradually to eliminate these different obstructions, and once these obstructions are gone, then you generate or you cultivate the type of awareness that perceives all phenomena, all the variety of the different types of phenomena simultaneously, and it's kind of compassion here. You have a compassionate mind that perceives all these phenomena. So this becomes very complicated, very difficult to really establish.
Ta sanje tsadu yan tenji chini ba yudu chini jamniji da di yue ba di ta nambe tejingi ta da gyushebe do tenji ta pechire da kombacha de.
And so the fact that in the case of the Buddha, that the compassion of the Buddha can realize the variety of all different phenomena, well, that is described in most of the Mahayana Sutras. That is presented or explained in most of the Mahayana Sutras.
Ta di tishi de wo de ko chamunji gi to ne ta di tishi ja pyeji ta cha de ro sanje chane tan de jamniji yue ba chi.
So this is a very subtle type of reasoning that can actually establish that in the continuum of the Buddha you find love and compassion.
Diche du chane ta sem chopa chama mai ba chane sem gi rangshin Oma di mondo churni. Di nega suye jamningji di la de yoba inzang dagaranda simjirahi. Yin lamna da yaga chadurwa.
So therefore, a Buddha is someone who has eliminated all imperfections, all obstructions of the mind. Now they're all gone. And so the actual nature of the mind, that becomes obvious, that kind of manifests in that moment. And if there's love and compassion, you can basically therefore say that the real nature of the mind is love and compassion, because this is what a Buddha manifests, free from all the obstructions. The Vietnamese, are there any questions? Or Koreans?
Gela kasagirang tisunso korwati dunye zoya yo mareza ani chidandi lausuti yore semchen chejawala korwa tha yore kinayang semchen chila korwa tha yo mare ti khanjeje
So
wadi to koso kandi tunhe tayo marerwe.
dunye tha yo mare segin yore kasangela suimba.
So yesterday Gemma talked about there's no end to suffering. So what does this mean? Like, so with regard to samsara, does it mean in general there is no end to suffering, or in a particular case there is no end to suffering? So what is this saying? Is there endless suffering and therefore there's no end to suffering? So Genla is not talking about it in general, but Genla is talking about particular cases. So it says, so Genla is talking about the particularity, so particular cases here, and so it says, for instance, in the 400 stanzas here, there is no beginning, there's no beginning and there's no end. So this is what Ayadeva says in the 400 stanzas.
Rashimeba yindang tenjigi nesu digidi shenge kombo shira reswa and shenge yoba yine di nyingen kombo res mawo chumo shindo go dedawa yin ba kwe tenji chen sa ane kowa de tayoba ma yin tameba ma isla de ta kanji tenji kenji chen ji jigen na tayoba che tenjigi ane susugi bezun chen taji je ma toba ina zoge sha sha ba ina an takyune ma res jesan ta tayoba yin tamemi se direda.
So why is that the case? Well, the reason is that understanding that samsara is in the nature of suffering, and that the root of these different types of suffering, the root of that is grasping at true existence. And so, therefore, this is basically, unless we remove the cause, we're unable. If we remove the cause, we will naturally, of course, attain liberation. But unless we remove the cause, then we won't be able to reach such a state of liberation. And so, we should really consider the fact that there's so few people who know about this. There's so few beings who know about the fact that suffering, the nature of suffering, the cause of suffering, and so forth. And even if there are those who know about this, there are so few who learn about this, who study about this. So therefore, this is just saying it's so rare that someone really makes an effort. And basically here saying, here what this verse says in the 400, or these lines from the 400 stanzas, it's saying, if someone makes the effort, if someone exerts himself to work towards it, then his or her suffering will have an end. But if they don't exert themselves, if they don't make an effort, their suffering will go on endlessly. So this is the meaning of there is no end. So there is no beginning and there's no end. No end in the sense here, if one makes an effort, there will be an end. If one doesn't, there won't be.
Le sumsa bala tene ne choate sajigi choate wa tunge tanyom disum dichu ya choate la tene choate wal tene to cha shidang la tene kasa choate wal tene to cha tunge la tene shidang tanyom de timu ya ni hosum de che diji de 고거르도 고거 인산다 곡강순이 제나 모두 저예요 말아 그도 되지나 직전에 코타질래 저제요.
So the reason really for that being that when we talk about the afflictions, we talk about attachment, aversion, and confusion or ignorance. So attachment, aversion, and ignorance, well, those lead to different actions of body, speech, and mind. So actions that are virtuous, that are non-virtuous, and that are neutral. Then virtuous actions, in turn, they lead to pleasant feelings. Non-virtuous actions lead to unpleasant feelings, and neutral actions lead to neutral feelings. And then those feelings in turn lead to new afflictions again. So pleasant feelings induce attachment, unpleasant feelings induce aversion, and neutral feelings induce ignorance. So in that sense, we're caught in this kind of cycle. There's a kind of cycle where one thing gives rise to the next, and that gives rise to those states again, and we move around in a circle. And so it's very difficult. It's basically what we need to do is break the circle. Whereas Gela said, if it wasn't like that, if it was like a straight line, then it would make sense that there be an exhaustion of that straight line at some point. But it's by reason of the fact that we're moving in such a circle that it's harder to break it. So if we need to really break this, then this is the time now to do so. This is the time. So this is what the Lama say. This is the time now really to make an effort.
Tineta ribangabati tirita lendeda jwa lendegi tatubi kipeche tanje ani simchena jewa kibikula ya peche tashaba tire.
No see. And then the fifth reason is presented in verse number 6, and this is basically addresses the law of cause and effect. In other words, the law of karma, volitional actions leading to certain results. So this is what Geshe will talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll meet again at 2 o'clock here. 2 o'clock.
Jisi nanka neba tang tuwa jisi ni gyuruba Disi tani ni gyurune tuwe tuna sewarashu Jisi nanka neba tang tuwa jisi ni gyuruba Disi tani ni gyurune tuwe tuna sewarashu Jisi nanka neba tang tuwa jisi ni gyuruba Disi tani ni gyurune tuwe tuna sewarashu